We might be yet to see what the console actually looks like, but we do know when we'll finally be able to get our hands on the PlayStation 5, holiday 2020. And now that the release date is locked in, we can finally get properly excited about the next generation being ushered in. And better yet, we can finally start figuring out which games we'll actually be playing when Sony's console debuts. Unlike Microsoft, which has confirmed that Halo Infinite will be its first next-gen flagship title, Sony has remained quiet on the software that will complement its hardware over the first few months. That doesn't mean we don't know anything though, as the release window, combined with interviews, job listings, and a good dose of common sense, simple common sense, has made it easier than ever to deduce which major titles are in the pipeline to drop late next year. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are my predictions for the PS5 launch lineup. Number 11, The Last of Us Factions. Likelihood, 50%. We know now that The Last of Us Part 2 is being primed as the swan song of the PS4, officially dropping next February, which rules it out of it being a PS5 game outside of maybe backwards compatibility. That doesn't mean there won't be a Last of Us game to launch alongside the next PlayStation though. Naughty Dog have revealed that Part 2 won't ship with a multiplayer component like the original game did, but that's only because their plans are much more ambitious. It's not confirmed, but considering the way they've discussed multiplayer, we know a project is coming in some form, and that could end up being a standalone version of Factions that gets to shine without being overshadowed by the single-player component of Part 2. The original Factions could easily sustain its own game, especially if the meta storytelling element of the multiplayer is expanded, and it would be a great way to give players something familiar yet new with the PlayStation 5. Number 10, Call of Duty Black Ops 5. Likelihood, 99%. It goes without saying that a Call of Duty was always going to be there alongside the launch of the PS5. Basic maths means there has to be, as Sony's console drops in the holiday window, and Activision releases a new Call of Duty every holiday. I know, I'm a genius. What's more interesting though is just what form the next Call of Duty is going to take. The known development cycle would suggest Sledgehammer is up next, but a whole bunch of leaks say that's no longer the case, and 2020's installment is actually going to be Black Ops 5. According to insider sources, development on Sledgehammer's game was going poorly, and in order to make sure that they didn't miss a year, because God forbid they miss a year, Activision called in Treyarch to salvage the project and transform it into the next Black Ops, which might drop the numbering system altogether in favor of a clean reboot. There's been no info addressing whether or not they have a chance of salvaging it in that time frame, but he is hoping the first next-gen code isn't simply a hobbled-together mess. Number 9, Demon's Souls Remastered. Likelihood, 70%. It's barely a secret at this point that a remaster of From Software's Demon's Souls is in development, a project which has enjoyed a bunch of leaks over the past year or so, but the biggest surprise is that it's apparently being saved for the PS5 rather than the PS4. It's not confirmed again, but it's been hypothesized that Bluepoint Games, the team responsible for remastering Uncharted and Shadow of the Colossus, could be working on the project. They've been working on a mystery title for a while now, and the recent interview with Wired confirmed it was for the PS5, and they described it as a big one. Oi oi. Demon's Souls would definitely class as a big project, as while the success of the original PS3 release was muted, it's become a coveted cult classic in the years following Dark Souls' big blowout. Number 8, Ghost of Tsushima. Likelihood, 80%. Of all the current games Sony has announced, only Ghost of Tsushima remains a mystery. While The Last of Us Part 2 and Death Stranding have both featured major blowouts this year, Ghost has remained absent, allowing rumors to go wild about it being a PlayStation 5 game. Those reached a head a few months ago when it was leaked that the title had indeed been pushed back to launch alongside Sony's next console and would be re-unveiled when the hardware is shown off early next year. That line of thinking was seemingly made redundant though when Sony executives confirmed Ghost would come to PS4 after all. But that doesn't mean necessarily it can't also drop on the PlayStation 5. At this point, the launch date for Sucker Punch's game has to be summer 2020 at the earliest. Sony historically spreads out its exclusives, and with Death Stranding in November and The Last of Us in February, this title will be dropping mere months before the next console, and that's assuming if it's even ready for then. Consequently, with it being so close to the PS5's launch, Ghost is locked in to be a cross-generation title. Number 7, Assassin's Creed Kingdom, likelihood 90%. Another series that we know will be showing up at the PlayStation 5's launch purely because of the release cycle, Assassin's Creed will be due another game late next year. The franchise used to work like clockwork on an annualized schedule, but now Ubisoft releases new games every 2 years to the benefit of the series' overall quality, with the next one on the way in 2020. We know more than that though, as persistent rumours have hinted towards the game's setting and focus. The past 2 titles have jumped from ancient Egypt to ancient Greece, and everything points towards the next game taking on Norse mythology in a Viking setting. The working title is also apparently Assassin's Creed Kingdom, and it will hopefully boast an open world that looks gorgeous running on the PS5, though you can absolutely guarantee it will be coming to current-gen consoles as well. Number 6, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, likelihood 50%. The original Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines was something of a diamond in the rough. In many ways, it was the first game to implement some then cutting-edge technical features, but there were ones which evidently couldn't be realized as well as the developers hoped, as an unmovable release date took precedent over quality. Still, it gained its following, and now a sequel is in development, promising to be just as ambitious. This time around though, the devs aren't going to let an arbitrary date hold them back, and have recently delayed the game from Q1 2020 until later that year. Now that it's going to coincide with the release of next-gen machines, there's a good chance the game will not only be retooled to polish the current issues, but to take advantage of the more advanced tech. The only announced consoles so far are the PS4 and Xbox One, but the studio will be shooting itself in the foot if it didn't also capitalize on the PS5 hype. Number 5, Starfield, likelihood 60%. Starfield makes it on this list, but at this point, anything could be happening with the game. The whole thing might just be Todd Howard mooning at the screen for 100 hours, for all I know. Bethesda's next RPG has been in development since Fallout 4 shipped, but the only official information released so far has taken the form of a teaser trailer in 2018. The developer has been quiet since, but hopefully it's to gear up for a major unveiling at the start of next year for a launch alongside the PS5. Though you'd expect to have seen at least a little bit more from a title releasing in 12 months' time, Bethesda has pulled this trick before with Fallout 4, which was announced only 6 months before it hit shelves. Likewise, we know Starfield is a next-gen game. That was made clear at its announcement, and it might not have been shown off purely because what the next-generation consoles are capable of is being kept under wraps, and the machines themselves haven't been formally unveiled. A late 2020 release would make it 5 years between Starfield and Fallout 4 as well, which is in line with the production cycles of Bethesda's previous RPGs. Number 4, Skull and Bones, likelihood 40%. Ubisoft's Skull and Bones has had a pretty difficult life so far. The open-world pirate game was supposed to come out in 2018 and then 2019, and now it's being pushed back indefinitely, with reports suggesting a release between 2020 and 2021. That's a hell of a long delay, but delays only make games better, and Ubisoft continuing to push forward with development is a good sign when they could have easily cut their losses and cancelled the project outright. Likewise, the delay until 2020 could benefit the game massively by aligning it with the launch of the next gen. With the extra time in the oven, the Black Flag-inspired title could be taking advantage of the PS5's power to fully realise the vision of its sandbox naval warfare. Ubisoft's lineup for 2020 so far only consists of Watch Dogs Legion and the next Assassin's Creed, which hasn't officially been announced, and a new IP like Skull and Bones could succeed on a new console where originality is expected. Number 3, Project A and League of Legends Wild Rift, likelihood 50%. Now this first game could go either way, as so far Project A has only been announced for the PC. One of Riot Games' follow-ups to League of Legends, the publisher is attempting to break into a brand new genre with this multiplayer shooter, dropping the fantasy of League for a grittier, near-future setting. Little has been released about the game so far, but the focus is clearly on delivering a tactical, high-stakes hero shooter that's just as deep as the title which made the studio famous in the first place. The issue is, of course, whether a console launch is even planned at all. It does look promising though, as next year Riot is bringing League over to consoles for the first time in the form of Wild Rift. The title is currently set for unspecified consoles next year, which absolutely means next-gen machines, so expect to maybe see Project A alongside it. Number 2, Harry Potter Magic Awakened. Likelihood 70%. There's a reason the images that we have for Harry Potter Magic Awakened look so terrible, and that's because, for whatever reason, Warner Brothers still haven't announced the Harry Potter RPG that everyone knows is in development. Last year, a trailer for the game leaked onto the internet, captured off-screen, that seemingly indicated the tie-in was quite far along in production. Everyone expected the official trailer to drop soon afterwards, but it never materialized. At this point, the only logical explanation is that it's being held back because it's actually a next-gen game, and will be unveiled alongside the new consoles next year. Who knows, Sony might have even thrown the cash at WB and locked it in as an exclusive, but that's just wild speculation on my part. Number 1, Horizon Zero Dawn 2. Likelihood 70%. Sony have done a good job at keeping their PS5 exclusives hush-hush so far, no doubt to announce a whole slew of them alongside their next console, hence the resistance to turn up at E3 or throw another PSX conference, but by process of elimination we can deduce which sequel is the most likely to turn up day one. Spider-Man and God of War no doubt both have follow-ups in development, but considering they only launched last year, a turnaround by 2020 is unlikely. Spidey might just be able to do it, as Insomniac usually don't take too much time between projects, but considering it launched at the end of 2018 and its DLC didn't wrap up until well into 2019, it's probably too tight a time frame. Horizon Zero Dawn, on the other hand, has had more than enough time to polish an amazing sequel. The first game shipped early in 2017, and people associated with the franchise have let slip that a follow-up is in development. Consequently, a late 2020 launch date would give the project over 3.5 years of development time, which lines up with a game of this size. Throw on top of that the fact that developer Guerrilla Games recently revealed they were working with a studio known for creating cinematic trailers for major games, and it seems very likely that a swanky reveal trailer for Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is currently being made just in time for a reveal alongside the PlayStation 5. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Are you looking forward to the launch of the PS5? And which games do you think will be there day one? Do you think I've got any of these right? Or am I just talking out my arse? Either way, while you're down there, could you give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to WhatCulture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.